Are we live on Facebook yet? There we are.
All right, we're back, everybody, after a little technology blurper here or there, but we solved it. We adapted, overcome, because that's what we do with no investing. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to literally, where did Gail go?
Yeah.
I'm going to literally kill my video, so it just features you. So you guys out there. So Gail Greenberg, I don't know what happened to her. She just literally flipped off there. But anyway, we're here. She'll be back in a second. There she is. Gail, your video's fine. Quit screwing around with it, okay? Let's just leave it be.
There she is.
Just flip it sideways. It'll be fine. We'll manage. Okay. Just there you go. Just leave it be. There we go. We're gonna make everybody sick here. All right. So one of the great things I wanted first up, most of you are well known, doing some great things, doing some marketing on a regular basis, doing amazing stuff. So what I thought first is talk about a couple of things, and I would love it for you, those of you that are watching this right now, whether you're here in Zoom or you're watching this on Facebook Live, what are your questions you have? Here's the opportunity. Now, this is a kind of a two-part thing. I got a couple questions that if we don't have any other, we'll dive into. But guys, you all come back Saturday, because we're going to talk a little bit more about some stuff Saturday. Now, I'd like it more so to be a little bit different. I want to save some of the capital raising questions till Saturday, because I guarantee that to be one of the big questions up here. So first question I'm going to ask while people are typing their questions, let's talk a little bit about your background and what attracted you to Noakes. And so we'll just start with first name alphabetical wise. Start with Bill Griesmer first. Tell them a little about who you are, where you're from, in case they don't know who you are, Bill.
Hello there, everybody. My name is Bill Griesmer. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and my father passed away, and I was a landlord very briefly. He left us a couple homes, and that was about a year and a half was enough for me to realize I really didn't want to be a landlord. However, I did want to have my own business and get involved in real estates. And what attracted me to Noakes is when it's done right, it's fairly passive. You can use the servicers to do a lot of your work for you, and you can do a lot of the work from home. I really didn't like, the thought of going out and looking at 100 houses to put, offers on 20, and, you might buy 2 of them. That didn't seem like a really good use of time for me. I greatly respect the people that can do it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And, I signed up with some other note educators, but then found Scott, and it was kind of off to the races after that. So it's been a great journey so far, and I look forward to continuing on this a little longer with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill.
With everybody. Long term, I should say.
Right. Mr. Cody Cox joining us.
Hey there. From the West Coast, the left coast, the fire coast for that matter. So I got started a long time ago, 36 years ago in the mortgage industry. I'm just kind of a humble mortgage guy from Eastern Oregon. And I got it started in working for a mortgage loan servicer in Walla Walla, Washington. And so I got to learn what the servicing side is the business back there. I was one of the guys that when you called your 800 number to talk to your loan service company, I was the guy that picked up the phone. And so eventually we moved to Portland, Oregon, and I worked for the largest savings and loan on the West Coast on that side there. But so I've been in the mortgage industry for a long time. And I eventually got to the point where I became the president of the board of directors for Northwest Real Estate Association here in Portland, Oregon, which is the largest REIA club in the Northwest outside of REITs up in Seattle. And so I got to learn a lot of the mortgage investing type of different criteria. I got to meet a lot of the educators that came through. I actually was the guy that booked them and signed the contracts to bring them in. So I got to see some behind the scene things that as far as that goes. And I tried here in Portland. I tried to do some wholesale and try and do some light fix and flips and some rehabbing and things like that. But the market here in Portland is so doggone competitive. And the values and the prices got to a point that it was really hard for like a little mom and pop shop to get involved in flipping or wholesaling houses. And so I had one speaker come in to do a note presentation before I met Scott, and I sat there and I listened to what this guy was saying, and I go, you know what? Here I am. I've been in the mortgage industry for, at this point in time, about 30 years. I have an understanding what's going on, and it just seems like it makes a lot of sense for me to get involved in the mortgage industry. I also, for a while, I had a day job. I was part of the state of Oregon's hardest hit funds program. I was the servicer liaison, so I was the guy that was the single point of contact for 225 different mortgage servicers across the country. And I was the guy that always dealt with the foreclosures because, a lot of the hardest hit funds recipients still couldn't make it. And so I did a lot of that. So I got to understand not only what the front side was as far as originating a loan and putting a loan together, but also what happens after that loan goes sour. And so I've I got into the more note industry just simply because it seemed like a natural fit for me. And so I kind of say right now, I spent the greater part of my career putting people into homes. I'm going to spend the latter part of my career keeping those people in the home. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Mr. Dan Deppen, share a little bit about where you're from. Actually, I'm sorry. It would be Chris Seveney. C comes before D. My apology. Trying to stick in some order here because the order on what you guys are seeing is different on my screen here. So. Chris Seveney, I can't hear you, bud.
Hear me?
There you go.
There you go.
You're going to have to eat the microphone. It's really faint.
So, okay. So turn it up a little bit. Hopefully you can hear me a little better.
Better.
Similar to most investors, I started, my full-time job is in real estate and on the commercial side. And I was doing, some personal fix and flips and so forth, and having a family, wife and kids that really it's the timing of it just was never feasible to go look at properties. And similar, like Bill said, I'm in Washington, D.C. area. So you go look at, 10, 20 properties, put an offer in, they're pretty much already gone or off the market. And I was on, Bigger Pockets, just scanning one day, and I found you, Scott, and then started doing research and notes and a lot of similar things to what Bill said, which is, you can do it at any time. It's more passive. It's not as passive as people think it is. It is pretty active, but the thing is, you can do it at any time of the day. You can do it at 6 o'clock in the morning or at midnight and to research tapes or do anything. Whereas if you want to go look at properties, you can't do that. So.
Chris, your mic went away there at the end.
Sorry about that. Is that better?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully this is better. So having the ability to be flexible on timing and be able to go look at assets at any point of day has been something that allows me that flexibility.
Cool. Awesome. Ms. Gail Greenberg. Can't hear you, Gail. All right, we'll move on to Laura Blunk while Gail's working on her thing there.
Okay. I guess the first time I got into real estate was with my dad's land development company, and I was keeping the books for it. He was creating notes, and I would go get the mail and register the payments when I was 14. And so I sort of had an innate sense of notes from then. And then when I was about 25, I got my real estate license, and I was a realtor for a while. And then my family, we just bought investment property for the longest time. And in 2009, I opened a company called Silverhammer Investments, and I was a wholesaler and a fix and flipper in North San Antonio and Austin, Texas. And that got to be where everybody and their mother and their best friend was a wholesaler and a fix and flipper in Austin, Texas. So, I was just priced out. I wasn't paying that much for those properties. I just wasn't. The competition was too bad. And somebody that I was working with had said something about notes. And he did a brief presentation of it. And I kind of piqued my interest because it was like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. And then Scott, you came and talked to a group, a mastermind that I was in about notes. And again, it was like, wait a minute, I know this, I've done this. And so it just made a lot of sense to me. And that just seems to be where we found ourselves. It was like coming home. This is something I know. And I agree with Chris 100%. It's not something that you have to do, when when the homeowner is at home, I work at 7 a.m. I work at midnight. It's a spreadsheet, and you can do it at any time. It's very convenient, and you let the thing I like about it most is you let the professionals do their job. You let the servicers do the servicing. You let the attorneys do the contact. You let the title companies do the research for title. I mean, I don't have to do that. I don't have to go out for property. I don't have to make the inspections. I don't have to meet the contractors. None of that. It's a lot more cerebral and a lot less get in the car and go somewhere at somebody else's convenience. So it just worked for us. Absolutely.
Good stuff there. Because Austin's just a little bit of a competitive market, right?
Yeah, kind of.
All right. Let's bring on. Let's see, get Gail back on here. Gail, I'm gonna unmute you. Gail, can you say something? Yeah. I can't hear you, Gail. Nope. Can't hear you. Can anybody hear? Nope. All right, Gail. See you later. We'll have you come on. Oh, yeah. All right. Gail, maybe just log in under the old thing. We'll just bring her on as another Chris Seveney. How's that sound? So let me unmute.
There's only one Chris Seveney.
Yeah, let's not forget Dan, though. I want to hear what Dan's got to say.
Yeah, actually, there's two, Bill.
Yeah. All right. Exactly. Dan, let's dive into you, buddy.
All right. So I'm from Denver, Colorado, and I got a background in aerospace engineering and product management. And most of my investing experience prior to getting involved in notes was in stocks and options. I started doing that when I was 19. And having lived through the dot-com crash and the financial crisis, I'm pretty well aware of what can happen to a stock portfolio if the market turns. And so, a couple of years back, I started getting real concerned about where the stock market was, and I wanted to, and how much of my net worth I had in stocks. And so I wanted to move some of that into something else like real estate. And so I started looking at that. And here in Denver, the way the real estate market is, the cap rates are real low. And, I originally looked at doing just kind of traditional rentals, and that didn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense around here right now. And as I was looking for other real estate investments, that's when I came across notes. And that really appealed to me because it's a little bit more technical maybe than some other forms of investing. And my dad and my grandfather had were involved in the loan industry, doing personal loans and some other things back in the day. So I didn't have firsthand experience in the industry, but I had kind of grown up around it. So it had kind of a strong appeal. So looked into that, and then pretty much, have gone pretty far deep down the note rabbit hole, over the last 18 months or so.
Good stuff there. Now, question for you out there. How long, because a lot of people always ask, well, how long does it take to get started? So how long from the time that you guys started did you do your first deal? And let's start ladies first. Laura Blunk, we'll start with you and go from there.
We were in fast track in May, and we bought our first 2 notes in June.
Okay.
We jumped off the cliff. I drank the Kool-Aid and jumped off the cliff. That was it.
Okay. Right. And then how many deals have you closed? That was that a year ago, year and a half ago?
That was a year ago.
And then how many deals have you closed in the last year then?
Since April, we've closed 34.
Very nice. Very nice. We'll come back to that in a little second there. Cody Cox, you're working full-time still, bud. So
Yeah, more than full-time.
More than full-time. Is that the full-timeness on your head?
Well, I with all candidness, I am the supervisor. I manage a bunch of union employees for state government, so that explains a lot. So, but at any rate, so yeah, I got started. I mean, I bought about 3 or 4 notes before I went to Fast Track. Fast Track was 2 years ago in October, and then within about 45 days, we had bought 4. And I think in the last 2 years since that time, I'm pretty close to 30 as well.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's good stuff there. Mr. Bill Griesmer, I mean, unmute you there. Yep, there you go. You're working full-time too as well.
Yes, my day job is as a physical therapist. And, I'd say it really depends on someone's level of business and real estate experience, in my case, actually. It can be pretty intimidating for some of the folks at home to hear, okay, yeah, I bought 30 since, April. And I mean, that's fantastic for Laura. But for a lot of people, if they're not used to real estate or they've never run a business, there's a lot to learn, even just in terms of doing that. So for me, I actually bought a note before I even had any education, just probably to see if it even worked. I bought a partial actually, and then I got some education and bought my first note. I think it was about 10, 11 months after I started educating. So it can go very, very quickly, or it can be a little bit longer. The one thing I would tell everybody listening, you're never, ever going to feel like you know everything. And if you really do wait until you know everything, you're going to be waiting forever. And you might as well not even do it. So that would be one of the biggest tips I have for everybody.
Yeah. Dan Deppen.
Yeah, so I spent probably about 6 or 8 months kind of studying and learning before I bought my first note. And then when I did start buying, I started with a couple of performing notes so I could just kind of learn the mechanics of the transactions and how they worked and kind of understand the documents and the paperwork. But I bought my first note in December of last year, and I've closed 26 so far. So I've kind of had this like acceleration since I started buying. And then I've been full-time on notes since the beginning of August this year.
Good stuff. Good stuff there.
Awesome.
That is awesome. Mr. Chris Seveney, how about yourself, man? Still working full-time too, right?
Yep, still working full time. I started in April of 16 when I found you, Scott, and then I watched a lot of your YouTube videos. Took your virtual note buying workshop that summer. Then after Note Camp in October or November of that year is when I bought my first note. So it was about 2 years ago from now is when I bought a first note. My first note, I actually bought 4. I bought 2 non-performing, 1 in bankruptcy and 1 performing, just to basically try and get a flavor for all different aspects.
There you go. That brings me to my next question. What kind of your mixture? Performing, non-performing? Do you like non-performing to turn into performing? Are you buying performing? You guys all have a little bit mixed bag of things. So since we're right with you, Chris, why don't we talk about that a little bit? What's your portfolio made up of? What's been your goals in the note business? Because I think it's probably a great aspect. There's a lot of people have different goals for what they want to accomplish. What's been your biggest goal, Chris?
Yeah, mine is long-term wealth. So I have a mixed portfolio. I have probably, I'd say 20% performing, 80% non-performing in my portfolio right now. And the non-performing ones, those become performing, and hold on to those. And it's the long-term cash flow and long-term growth. You continue to do that year over year. And buy notes, whatever you set your goals for every year. And those continue to grow because those notes you bought this year, get them reperforming, next year, they're still cash flowing along with the ones you're going to buy that following year. So this is not a get rich quick business. You can hit some home runs on deals, but the thing I tell people is it's slow and steady wins the race. And it's all about building that long-term cash flow. Good
stuff there. Dan, about yourself, because you've made the jump from part-time to full-time relatively quickly.
Yeah, so I've got, out of my 26 deals that I've done, 8 have been performing and the rest have been non-performing. But what I've been doing is buying performing notes in my self-directed IRA, because basically I want that to be as passive as possible, where I get a decent yield but really don't have to spend too much time on it. But then I've been doing the non-performing deals out of my LLC with various partners. And so, my goal is to, build a larger, more, scalable business that can basically provide me with a larger, income than what I had before as a product manager, basically grow wealth over time. The non-performing deals I do have, there's a variety of different kinds. I mean, some of them are ones that have a high likelihood of reperforming, where the goal is to get those reperforming and hold them and then sell them off. But then I've been taking on some other ones lately that are either, already in foreclosure, where the plan is to actually take the home back and resell it.
Cool. Good stuff. Cody Cox, what's been your plan?
Well, my plan, I've got a couple of self-directed IRAs that I've been trying to accumulate some performing loans in. And that's just, just that general monthly payment building up well slowly over time. because I agree with what Dan said. Or it may have been Chris, that it's not a get rich quick thing. It's a get rich smart kind of thing. So you've got to structure some things that way. In my regular LLC, I've basically been trying to acquire non-performing notes, getting a good discount on that. Looking for owner-occupied ones where it does seem there's some hints that borrower wants to stay in the house. So, trying to work with them to try and get them to a point that we can, get them reperforming in some fashion. And depending on the underlying investor, whether we want to continue that performing or we want to, resell that reperformer off, once we have that little bit of maturity behind it. So, but, it doesn't work all the time. Sometimes we have these REOs, these things called REOs that come back. And I just took one back today. But fortunately, I've kind of been marketing that out to begin with until there's a lot of interest and maybe somebody, buying that as is here real quickly. So, there's a couple ways to do it, trying to build the cash flow, which I think that's what we're all trying to do. But then there's lump sums that can come in, once we sell off an REO. And so that's kind of the mix I've got going. Good stuff. Laura?
Well, we've been buying out of out of the LLC. We have 5 that are performing right now, and when they hit like 18 months or so, I mean, when they're seasoned well enough that we can sell them, if my investors want out, then I'll probably buy them out, because Julian and I, my partner Julian and I, we want to keep as many performing as we can. We have, since Cody mentioned REOs, we have 3 on the market and 1 that is going on the market right now that we ended up taking back and selling those. But our goal is to have as many performing notes sitting off to the side that pay for the company and the partners to get a salary. And then anything we do on the non-performing side is just gravy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Bill, your focus?
Yeah, I do about almost half and half, actually. I come across a lot of people who really just like the idea of a performing note. And for them, it seems to work better and they're more comfortable with that. It's can be kind of daunting to quote civilian, when you start talking about, well, then, you go through, they might, you get a deed in lieu, you do a cash for keys. What, they're not paying and you're going to give them cash for keys? Yeah, although that's sometimes the very best thing you can do. To a lot of people, it sounds kind of crazy and daunting. So anyway, I have some people that, just prefer a performing note. So I've been doing that. So yeah, about half and half now.
Okay, good stuff. We're going to give Gail one more chance here to rejoin. All right. See if this works. If not, we'll boot her. All right, let's see here. It's unmute her. Gail, can you say anything?
Yeah, hi.
There we go.
Yeah.
Every time's a charm.
I'm alive.
It's alive. All right. So, Gail, why don't you share a little about you and how you got what attracted you to the note business?
I was thrown into the real estate business in 2011 when I had to sell my family's house in a really terrible little town. The town I grew up in, Pottstown, Pennsylvania. It's only terrible because it's the town that should have been Allentown in the Billy Joel song. All the factories have closed down, and terrible schools, really high taxes, everything. It's your worst nightmare as a real estate investor. But I didn't know any better, so I just went ahead and flipped the house, and it went incredibly well. So I thought, wow, that was so much fun. I think I'll do some more. So I started flipping. I learned from one guru how to flip remotely. So I was flipping in Chattanooga, Tennessee from Philadelphia, which I don't recommend. But then I got then I started to see the possibilities. So I thought, my real goal, because I've been a freelancer my whole life and I've never had like regular money, was like, let me get cash flow. So my plan was, let me flip a couple and then I'll buy one and I'll keep, for cash, and I'll keep doing that. But I sat down and did the numbers. It was going to take me freaking forever to get to where I wanted to go. So around that time, a caterpillar in a tree smoking crack suggested to me that I try multifamily. And I did. I jumped into that. I did one big deal in Fort Worth, Texas. The management team embezzled And we were really lucky to find out and to sell the property before, while we could still return the principal to all of our investors. So that was harrowing. And I had just returned to flipping, and I was also managing student housing in Philadelphia in a really bad neighborhood where the big public university is. And that was totally crazy too. And my famous story is I had a triplex that was home invaded twice in the first 2 months we owned it. And only one apartment, the other 2 apartments untouched. And so we thought, twice, even in a bad neighborhood, twice in 2 months, the same apartment, that doesn't make sense. So the people moved out. We found all their drug dealing equipment. And I was literally asked to cut a bullet out of the wall to give to the police because there was gunfire the second time. And I was on my knees, and I remembered I heard of something called notes. It was like, la! It was like choir of angels appeared. And I started trying to learn notes then. And I was watching different people trying, do I want to do seconds first? And then I found Scott, and then I just never looked back. It was just you all the way, baby.
Well, that's great. We don't have to make this an ad about me. I wanted to you guys, okay?
Well,
I appreciate it. But
credit where it's due.
The big thing is you guys all have taken action, and that's what I really wanted to talk about, because I think a lot of people hit roadblocks along the way, mental roadblocks, money roadblocks, marketing roadblocks, raising capital roadblocks. So what I want you guys to share and is have you experienced a roadblock in your business, whether it's a deal that took your time or marketing or job, and one of the best ways that you maybe overcame that. So why don't we start first? We'll jump over on the opposite side of my screen here with Bill. We'll go from B and work our way up there. So there been a roadblock or something that's slowed your business, any that you overcame, Bill?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And Scott, you know this as well as anyone that hasn't hit any roadblocks or obstacles or struggles, they haven't really been doing anything. I had a post on Facebook about this, I guess it was just a week ago. It's easy to think, these successful people or the other folks that are speaking on here that, they had it easy. They just got lucky. God was smiling at them. The exact opposite is probably true. People that are successful, they are successful because they have learned and because they found a way to get over or around or under an obstacle. For me, there was one really bad note that I bought before I was with Scott, and boy, I had that from about a year and a half, and I finally sold it earlier this year. And I sold it with the advice of some people in our mastermind. And I'm not happy and I'm not proud of this, but I actually kind of dismissed what they said for a couple of months. I said, yeah, I know he knows what he's talking about, but he doesn't know about this house. And, I kind of convinced myself that, just because he had never walked in the actual house that I had, that what he said just wouldn't work. And so then out of, I don't know, not really desperation, kind of a what the heck, it can't hurt. I advertised it for sale with seller financing, and I was going to go out and look at it later that day. It was about 8 a.m. that I advertised it. Before I got to that house, I had 4 showings that day.
Nice.
And I ended up selling it. And I realized right then and there, a lot of the obstacles that I had, they were all in my head. And that's something that everybody has to deal with. The little voice inside that says you can't do it. You just need to get some help. You need to think differently. There's ways around almost anything. And if you make a mistake, heard this guy say, more deals fix it. Yeah, and that has been the case also. So
there you go.
Absolutely, there are ways around anything.
Good. Yeah, Paul Cooper, who mentions on here, you guys all know Paul, totes of notes. He goes, learning to take a loss is hard. Sometimes you just got to walk away or try to run with it. And then Stephanie likes to share, Bill, denial is just a river in Egypt.
Just to clarify, I didn't say I took a loss. I'm still going to have
you're being a little bit more creative, where basically It's gonna take a little bit longer, but you're still coming out on top with the owner finance dealer, right, Bill?
Correct.
Good stuff. Cody, what's been a big hurdle for you, bud? That you've
Well, I think there's two things for me, really. I would say one of them is just time. I spend at least 12 hours a day during my commute and the job at the commuting down to the state and then the commute back. I mean, that's just 12 hours a day. And then,
hang on a second. You mean 12 hours a week, don't you, in commute? Or are you talking about your whole job is 12 hours per day?
It's 12 hours a day. I get up at 5:30 in the morning and I don't get home till 5:30 at night. And so that's all devoted time. Now there's times during that commute where I can listen to a podcast or some sort of educational kind of thing. So I try and take that time and take advantage of it. But to sit in front of my laptop, my computer, and actually work on notes to do the due diligence or to follow up, on another aspect of it, or trying to push through a foreclosure. A lot of what we do kind of leads to what my second thing is that I have found the older I get, I don't wait very well. I don't wait in line very well. I want things to happen a lot faster than they do. And so you got to learn a little patience because, we're herding cats as we're herding with our vendors and a number of different folks that would get involved. Just waiting for a BPO sometimes is not fast enough. And so those two things, especially the time factor, when I get home, if I decide that maybe I want to eat tonight and maybe I want to sleep a little bit tonight, that gets about 2 or 3 hours in the evening. And then again, I have a wife I have to attend to and I spend some time with. So there's a lot of distractions and trying to minimize distractions so you can focus on that note business is the biggest struggle for me, I think.
So I'm gonna correct the word there. You don't have to spend time. You want to spend time with your wife.
Well, that's true, and I appreciate that. Just in case she listens to this,
we all know you love Wanda's great. I'm just covering your butt there, my friend.
And you've done that before.
But that's you bring up a good point there, Cody, about trying to balance the work. When you're working a 40-hour-a-week job and you got a longer commute. You found ways to do that, and we'll come back to that in a second here for you.
Okay,
Dan, what's been a hurdle for you early in the business?
Yeah, one of the big hurdles that surprised me early on was sourcing. I mean, I went into notes assuming, well, if I have money and I want to buy stuff and assets are out there, I should be able to do it. That should be fairly straightforward. It kind of is with everything else, but that really wasn't the case. I mean, there's a lot of work involved to develop relationships with asset managers to kind of find where the sellers are. Over time, you kind of get this map of the lay of the land, but, really overcame that with just a lot of kind of steady effort over time. So a lot of sending emails to asset managers on a regular basis. One thing I noticed was that when I started sending emails to asset managers at first, I didn't necessarily hear a lot back, but after I'd done that for a couple of months and all of a sudden the phone started to ring. So it's definitely something that takes a lot of time to overcome and a lot of digging and poking. Yeah. So for me, sourcing was kind of the biggest one early on.
Cool. Good stuff. Gail, what's been a hurdle for you?
I was afraid to ask people for money initially. I find like that's sort of the ultimate test of whether you believe in yourself or not when you're suggesting someone give you their life savings or, a big chunk of their IRA money. And, it's really funny. I actually overcame it kind of inadvertently. I stopped really thinking about that. And I just, you had given us a tip at the Cape Coral Mastermind in August of 2017 that one way to just market is to be active on Bigger Pockets.
Yep.
And I just started interacting with people and I found, I knew a fair amount of things. I had a lot to share and people just started like reaching out to me. And, oftentimes if we were just having a general conversation about, about notes, you don't realize it, but you're kind of auditioning. They're asking you stuff, but they're really, in their minds, they're asking themselves, would I JV with this person? And lots of times, when I wasn't pushing it and I wasn't trying to get them to give me money. That's when they all like chase you with it, basically.
There you go. Yeah, I can remember those conversations and going back in there. But you've also one thing you've had a goal though to be very giving. You've got a kind of a big goal that you want to start off with to be very much of a philanthropist, right?
Yeah, so I need even more money than the rest of you bozos. So all the JVs, come. Now, yes, actually, Chris and I just started a podcast called Good Deeds Note Investing that's about to launch as soon as iTunes gives us the green light. And
wait, how many episodes you got?
We've got 7 in the can, Chris, is that right?
Yep.
All right.
And
magical number of 10.
yeah, we've overcome our fear of talking.
What?
God help you all.
That's good stuff. Chris, how about yourself? Did you hit a hurdle along the way or anything like that you hit trouble with?
Hit many of them. Similar to Cody, it's the time. And one of the things for me was getting out networking and trying to go to events and get to meet people and stuff. Same thing, working full time. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm not usually getting home till 6:30 and want to spend time with the wife and kids. So, trying to get out and network was somewhat challenging. But it's really, to overcome that, you set some expectations, and like you've done classes on time blocking, and it's really about managing your schedule and managing things. So that's one tip I'd give to people is, set small goals. Don't set big goals. Set small goals that can achieve those big goals. The other is take emotion out of it. I'm a very type A emotional person, and sometimes you may have a borrower. I had an asset in Ohio this was just a complete disaster. It had 4 feet of water in the basement. The guy moved next door. Every time property preservation would go over there, the guy would run across the street, say, "Can't get on my property, I'll call the cops." And this went on for months, and I was literally spending hours a day trying to get this resolved. And that time was time I couldn't spend either trying to get other assets or buy things. So you have to, take that emotion out of it and say, okay, how can I get out of this deal? And sometimes getting out of a deal instead of trying to, try and get every dollar out of a deal is a much better scenario, because I got out of that deal and it allowed me to free up time to start working on a lot of the assets. So, got to cut bait sometimes, even though it's, like Stephanie said about denial, sometimes you just got to, go through and realize what is the best situation for you and your company and moving forward in that situation.
Good nuggets there. Miss Laura Blunk.
Oh, you guys hit everything. And just for Stephanie, I am one with the river of denial. I guess I'm a little more fortunate. I don't have a full-time job. My full-time job was investing in real estate before. So it was a matter of selling some assets and getting us a cushion so that when we moved into notes, we could do it full time. I guess one of the biggest mind blocks that I had to go over is what Gail said, is I'm old enough to remember when you didn't talk about politics, you didn't talk about sex, and you didn't talk about religion, and you didn't talk about money. That was it. So the idea of having to go out and ask people for money was, it was a huge block for me. I just considered it in poor taste. It was very rude, blah, blah, blah. And then it slowly dawns on you when you go through these notes, because we did our first couple with our own money, that you're not really asking them for money. You're offering them to make money. You're giving them a return. And once I hit that, you're doing them, you're not really doing them a favor, but I mean, you're offering them something that they're looking for. That was a big one. So getting out and doing and talking to people in IRA groups and in RIAs and local meetings and things like that, and actually being able to talk about funding notes and how the system worked, and just relying on the knowledge that I had garnered through the couple that we did, got easier and easier.
Because you went gangbusters. You hit a little bit of hurdle with it too, trying to figure that out. And then when you finally got it through your head,
it's a little thick, but once it gets in there, it's kind of stuck.
It's not getting out again.
And I'm just really, really stubborn. I don't. when I set my mind on doing something, I'm going to figure out how to do it. I just am. It may take me some time, but I'm going to figure out how to do it. I mean, we hit our head against a brick wall, and we were banging our head against a brick wall, and it wasn't working. And I finally just said, to heck with this. And I picked up the phone and called Scott and said, hey, and he said, okay, let's work on this. So
I think it's a girl thing too. It's like, oh, who, me? Can I invest your money? I don't know if I can.
And you don't call people at work. That was a big one at my house. You don't call people at work. It's like, but I am working. I'm called. Yeah. So it was odd. And I'm very fortunate in that I get to do this all day. And people ask me, like, no, I don't have a life. No, I don't have a husband that I have to spend time with. I don't have a commute that I get up and I sit down with my computer and I can market and I can make calls and I can take calls and Julian does all the work with the running the spreadsheets and running the numbers and I trust him completely because I have the that's so cute thing. So we're really fortunate, but it seems to work, I guess.
Good stuff there. Yeah, it just takes time going through things. What has been what's been probably the one thing that surprised you the most? Actually, I'm going to save that for later. Let me come back there. You guys all market on a regular basis. What's been probably the most valuable marketing thing that you do that you think sets yourself apart from other people? And we'll start with the senior statesman out of Oregon there, Mr. Cody Cox out there.
I think the main thing from a marketing perspective is consistency, and it was alluded to a little bit earlier when talking about marketing asset managers. But and then in my marketing, I try and do something every Sunday night. I've kind of backed off on that just a little bit because of some internal things going on. But it's a matter of that consistency, and to me, it's a matter of just telling my story. When we talk about trying to raise funds, we have to be very, very careful about just blatantly, asking for funds during our marketing. So the biggest thing is you can tell your story and tell you what happened on this deal and kind of turn it into a little bit of a journal. And then it raises and piques the curiosity of the people that it's going out to. And in that way, they end up calling you. I like, one of the things you have to do as a fix and flipper is you got to do a lot of outgoing marketing. You got to do a lot of sending mailers and, just trying to get to distressed houses or absentee owners or whatever thing. So there's a huge advertising expense going out. But what we do, it's everything's coming into us. We can sit down on a Sunday evening and type out, 3 or 4 paragraphs, put a picture of an asset we're working on and some of the things you've run up against. And maybe make it a little philosophical and add a little story to it. People get piqued about that and saying, well, how does that work? And so that they come to us. And that's the thing I like about it is that, the efforts are for them to come to us. We just have to put a consistent type of message out there. And that for me is the thing that I like and the other thing I kind of jokingly said is, with the day job, there's always that time Sunday afternoon that I call the Swan days, which is that period of time Sunday evening that you realize you got to get up at 5:30 the next morning and go into this job. And so I tried to avert that several years ago by basically starting to write this little journal thing that I sent out to my mailing staff. And so that helped ease the Swan days and then also prove some profitable by having people contact me wanting to get involved.
And you've done that for about 2 years straight, correct?
Yeah, a little over 2 years at this. I think it'll be 3 years here in February now I think about it. Yeah, so.
Good stuff there.
Yeah.
Gail Greenberg, what's been one of the better things that you've done?
So, of course, I am a career marketer, so I've been the worst offender when it comes to actually doing any marketing. I was just thinking as Cody was talking, and you're such a good marketer, Scott. You're such a, wall-to-wall, taking advantage of every possible avenue. I would say, I don't know if my journey is in any way typical, but I feel like my note career has been in stages. Like stage 1 was just sort of figure out what the heck I was doing, like how do these things work? Then, having enough confidence to actually have JVs, and really just from that one little tip from you about bigger pockets, I had a flood of JVs about 6 months into my note career. And then I had like the issues of scale immediately. Like, oh my gosh, now I have like way more notes than I know how to keep track of. And then it was about building systems and, just kind of getting the house in order. And now, Chris and I have teamed up, and the issue for us now is sort of, who do we really want? And we want to have sort of a very much more refined approach to marketing. And we're really talking about audiences and, the specific people that we're targeting. So it's going to be much more of a rifle than a shotgun, if that's the right Texas
it just
analogy.
it totally makes sense. You're just streamlining in, narrowing your focus a little bit for what you identify with. You're just focusing on your avatar, which is awesome.
Exactly.
Good stuff there. Okay. And you know what? Everybody goes through stages. It's just whether we want to admit it. Sometimes our stages overlap a little bit. And that's a great thing out there for those of people out there. We all go through stages. You'll hear that from everybody here, whether it's working a full-time job and trying to do this all while you're still working or working on a transition phase or different. Everybody's in different shoes. So nobody can say your phases are worse or better off than anybody else, because everybody knows that. So let's go over here. Bill, what's been one of the better marketing things that you've done or that's helped you out dramatically?
For me, I'd have to say speaking, a combination of speaking and writing. My wife was recently kidding me. Very few people know this, but my first degree was not in physical therapy. My first degree was actually in journalism.
Wow.
I had a focus in broadcasting and public relations. So, and that was at the Scripps School of Journalism, one of the finest journalism schools in the country.
How the hell did you get where you're at now is what I want to know.
Well, everything broke right. That's how I got where I am right now. And I just feel I'm a very good speaker. I feel I'm a very good writer. I've managed now to become a monthly columnist for Think Realty magazine about note investing. I'm speaking on this now. I'm going to be doing some more note education next year, and with some other speakers. And for me, Jillian Sidoti mentioned earlier today, I frequently, about once a week now, I get in to Facebook or LinkedIn and do my videos there. And I've got my YouTube channel, and I still need subscribers. If anyone is able to get on and subscribe, my goal is still to get 100 by the end of the year. I think I need about 20 or so. So for me, yeah, just a combination of speaking and writing. And that's really just kind of what Cody said. You just got to be willing to put yourself out there. And sometimes even, stuff that you're struggling with. Don't be afraid. I used to think that, if something didn't go exactly right, you just got to file that away and never tell anybody. I have found the exact opposite. I found that people really like to hear that and hear, how you overcame things and how Chris overcame his 4 feet of water here in Ohio, the Buckeyes. So that's, for me, that's what's worked really well. A combination of speaking and writing and really just being willing to put yourself out there and, bring people along.
There you go. Dan Deppen, what's been one of your biggest things that and I think I may know the answer to this, but what's been the biggest thing that's helped you out with the most?
Yeah, I have several channels, but probably the biggest one has been my newsletter and just being very consistent with that, getting that out on either a Sunday or Monday night. And, in that I try to, basically it's almost more of like a blog than a newsletter, but I kind of just try to talk about whatever's on my mind that week and whatever I'm learning about. So usually, with a lot of different deals and different stages of progress at any given time, there's usually something interesting that pops up every week. And so I try to write about that and just make it, educational. And so that, people who are learning about notes will, get something out of it. But I think that having multiple channels is good as well. So my YouTube channel's been good. So I make a lot of videos on how to use Excel for notes. So when I was in business school, I came into that with an engineering background, so I was good with Excel, but other people had liberal arts backgrounds and other things. So I would help people out with Excel. So when I got into notes, I figured people might need similar help, and that's worked out pretty well. And then also doing, bigger pockets and, Facebook. And I found JV investors through probably 5 or 6 different methods, but the newsletter is probably been the best one overall.
Awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, I see your comments on Bigger Pockets. I was going through a lot of stuff last night.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's another comment by Dan. Oh, there's another comment by Chris Seveney. Oh, some comments there. Laura Blunk, what's been the biggest kind of marketing thing that's helped you out the most?
Again, I'm reiterating what everybody else has said. I started doing mailing out to lenders as well as to local private investors. Earlier this year, been doing about 8 months. I mail out twice a month. So I do an email, a regular email, and I get response to that. I mean, my open rate is much larger than it was. Coming from wholesaling and fix and flipping, I know postcards. We just designed a new postcard to send out to IRA investors, and we're going to send out about 2,000 of them.
Oh, nice.
Comes from that. And other than that, I'm apparently pretty good at social media, just getting our name and our face out there. Every time I go to a new event, it's like, oh yes, I see your stuff all the time. So I'm pretty good at least I'm getting pretty good at doing that. So
you're getting good. It all takes time to see. Chris Seveney, what's been the big thing for you, bud, marketing wise? What's been a thing?
So most people said everything consistency in the newsletter. A few things I'll add to that is Note Camp, in the sense of, you put out there the social media award and things like that. Note Camp is, I think, a place for people who aren't very good at marketing to practice and do videos and talk to people what you learned, or, come up with ideas on things, because we're all here to learn. And this is, I think, that avenue where it's you can get up there and it's like Toastmasters almost, in that sense. People know Toastmasters. You get up there and kind of speak, and the group of audience will kind of give you information or give you help on things. And this Note Camp has been helpful. The other thing is about the newsletters. I never make my newsletters about me. Everything is about how to try and educate somebody. I may share a story about a lesson learned, but how you can learn from that, or I'll share articles or things that basically can help people in their business. So I'm never really, I'll say a lot of times, promoting myself in that sense, but I'm telling people experiences or sharing things so people can learn from them. And, for me, for JV, it's really target marketing in regards to places like people on Note Camp, and I contribute a lot on Bigger Pockets, and reaching out to, specific groups of people that you try and reach out to come up with different ways. An example is, I'll just quickly say, is like, I have a realtor in fix and flipper in North Carolina who I've done several deals with now, that we've bought in some CFDs that were abandoned. And basically she had already bought, had them lined up to renovate and either fix and flip, or I'll own or finance them to her. So, it's a different, it's a little different from just buying notes, but it's an avenue where you make deals with other people that can be very helpful for your business, and it gives you other revenue sources.
That's a great point there, Chris, because that actually takes me to my next question for you. Good transition there, and I'll make sure and send you the $100 for promoting Note Camp. Okay.
No need, Scott.
I'm not going to share your secret from last time. So, one of the great things, how important has your network been to all you guys? Do you feel like you've been alone, or I think we've all gone through different things where we have our head in the sand or pound our head against the wall, like you just talked about. How important has your network been out there? Laura, you were ready to answer that question, I think, first.
Huge. Every time I've got a question, I can post it on this the local, and I get 5 or 6 answers, and and they all come with my experience is, and through the network of just the We Close Notes network of attorneys and title people, and oh my gosh, invaluable. Oh my gosh.
Cool. Gail?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking, in the mastermind, particularly, you meet so many people, even people who are presenters on Note Camp, and you get access to such, so much expertise in such a friendly package, and people are so nice. It actually reminds me, it's also like a pretty quick learning curve in the note world. It's like the, in hospitals, the classic thing about learning to do medical procedures, simple ones, is, see one, do one, teach one. That's what notes are like. You don't have to have done a lot to be sort of very able to help people who are brand new.
Good stuff. Dan?
Yeah, the network has really been huge. I mean, notes is definitely not a go-it-alone business. I mean, if you were to try to do that, it would definitely take you a lot longer to get anywhere, and you'd make a lot more mistakes on the way. But it's just hugely valuable when you say buy a note in a new area, to be able to reach out and get recommendations on realtors, attorneys, other vendors, or if you run into unique problems or a problem that I haven't run into before. It's really nice to be able to have a large group of people that you can reach out to and ask for advice, because usually someone else has seen whatever it is you're facing. So having a strong network makes note investing a whole lot easier than it would be otherwise.
Now I'm going to jump over to Bill here. Bill, you just acted your network or our networks and stuff like that. You just helped somebody out in the network a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago. You want to talk about that? Wayne's deal.
Wayne. Yeah, just exactly what everybody else has said. Wayne Snell, who's pretty well-known note investor of his own right here. I was very flattered and really very happy to help him. He had an asset here in Columbus that it was going to be really difficult for him to get to. He asked me to go and represent him in court. So I was able and willing to help him with that. And it really went very well. It didn't end up, I put a lot more time into preparation actually than was required, as it turned out. But, I took it seriously, and I told him, I was like, I just asked a couple questions to make sure I was familiar with all the facts of the case. I just told him, I just want to make sure that I represent you and your company well. But that's the thing. Networking is very, very important. I tell my children this. It doesn't seem right, but it really is true. Who you know is so much more important a lot of times than what you know. And knowing the proper people, just knowing who you can reach out to. People will be very generally open to helping you if you, come to them with, an open heart and, genuinely in need of help. So, yeah, I've been had the chance to help a couple of folks here, Wayne Snell and Katie Moten and Howard Marcali. I've been able to help a number of people. So,
and Laura Blunk from buying a Columbus asset that she was making an offer on to that you had looked at a couple of days earlier, right?
Yep.
I see all in the note world.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. Cody Cox, about yourself, bud.
Well, there's this old adage that says that your network is your net worth, and I think that's really important to understand. Even though I've been in the mortgage industry for a long time, I constantly say that you're always learning something new every day in the note world. And I look at these other folks on this panel here, and I say there's a whole bunch of resources right there for me. And so, the crew that you've assembled is always a good place to go out and reach out because, like it was said earlier, somebody else has probably encountered already what I'm looking at right now. And so, they're great resources, they're great avenues for, recommendations to various areas. And so, the network is just so important because, as much as I'm stuck up here in the Northwest all by myself, I still need folks all around the country to help me for my business to prosper. I had an old manager a long time ago said that all boats rise with the tide. So I know if Chris or Bill and Dan are doing well, then the rest of us could be doing well itself because we're all in the same boat together. And what's interesting to me also is that very rarely do we trip over each other. There's enough out there for all of us to be looking at from a product standpoint that we're never, at least I've never encountered it, trying to outbid each other or underbid each other. So, it's a nice network that we have. It's a safe network, and so that's what's, to me, being important, that I can reach out to one of these guys. I got a couple of assets in Columbus I'll need to talk to you about, though. But so that's the important part of it. I mean, this is a group that you can feel comfortable with asking questions because everybody, we have the same goal in mind, and we all work together that way.
Cool. Chris?
Yeah, pretty much everyone hit upon a lot of the things. The thing I'll mention about the networking too, for people who are listening and watching this right now is, use us as a resource and use the people on the WCN crew as a resource. For many of us, we have a lot of wounds and those wounds are still very fresh. So, a lot of things they're still in our minds and we still have, a lot of memories of things or incidences that may happen. And same thing, like when I started out, I reached out, I watched Note Camp, and then at that time it was Wayne Snell, Adam Adams, and Jay Tenenbaum. And, I reached out to them, had some questions for them. And, everyone in this business is typically very friendly because, like Cody said, it's not like you're in a region where it's fix and flippers and it's cutthroat, everyone going after each other. There's so many assets out there that there's plenty for us. And again, we typically don't trip over each other, or you might once in a while, but it's, when you get a tape of 300 assets, I know I'm not looking to take all 300 down. So it's, I'm not worried about the competition from that standpoint. And if somebody, sets their price at something, I don't view it as competition because we all have different goals. But I would my tidbit for everyone out there is use everybody that as a resource, because we're all willing to help. We'll answer questions the best we can, or we can provide you guidance of someone who may have that experience to be able to answer that question.
Good response.
Absolutely. Good point. Very good.
Got a question here from Lisa. She asked this question. This is not a pitch or anything like that. She asked a question. Some of you have prior note experience. What is unique about my training that makes my class stand out?
I'll go.
Okay, Cody?
I would say focus. I mean, one of the things, Scott, that you helped me with was just focus. I mean, there's a lot of different strategies. There's a lot of different structures you can do in the note world. But when I went to that 3 or 4 day of fast track, I mean, we focused right down on what model I wanted to pursue. And so for the most part, I would say, one of the things that you've helped me with and the training and the ongoing training you do is just focus. I mean, there's a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different Monday notes night at the note night, whatever you call it, and some of those don't exactly, flip my switch, but the ones that I do help me stay focused. And so, for those of you that are looking for an opportunity, Scott will help you focus right into what you're looking for, help you determine it. He won't tell you what to do, but you get to make your own choices, but he helps with that focus. And so that's where, one of the valuable things you've had from me.
Cool. Awesome. Bill?
I was going to say, Scott, I would say you're just focused on marketing and especially, kind of modern digital marketing. And that is really translatable to almost any business. I know that, my friend is running a doTERRA business, and Heidi and I have already taken some of the things we've learned from you about marketing and kind of mentioned a lot of it to her. Even though it doesn't have anything to do whatsoever with note investing, if you're looking for something that kind of separates Scott from other, note educators, the note education is very, very, very high quality. One of the best in the business along those lines, but the focus on marketing, I don't think that is, you don't get that with other note investors, or other note educators.
Gail?
Yeah, I always tell people when they ask me that I feel like in the fast track, you kind of really open the vault and you really, the fact that you give us all the connections with all your sources and, the exact way that you go through a tape and how you do your bidding and everything. It's not like you're turning us into competitors because none of us are going to be able to compete with you, but the fact that you are just so forthcoming about everything, I feel like it's, the Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets. And then, the support afterwards, the fact that the fast track ends with you having a personal one-on-one, session with everyone to really talk about, don't just go home and do nothing, because that's the most common thing in training is that people just can't apply and they just can't figure out what the first steps should be. And just the ongoing ability to be in touch with you. It's like, I think we all try not to call you with basic questions, but when there's something, a real head scratcher, I feel like I can always get an answer. If you're not on a plane, I can hear back from you pretty quickly on almost all the time.
You should feel if you have a simple question. I don't get bothered with simple questions. Okay.
We're saving you for the good stuff.
It's all good stuff. Like I'll give you an example. I've answered like 3 questions in the last 45 minutes from people texting me on simple questions. Like, I don't know, check this out. You know, I think that's the biggest thing there. I want you guys, I want everybody who comes to our workshop to succeed, because unfortunately there's only and Chris and I were talking about this back and forth. It's probably less than 10% of people actually take action of anything, you know? And one of the biggest things is after note camp is seeing who actually sends an email out to the database. It's less than 10% always, maybe like closer to 5%. It's a frustrating aspect of things. But anyway, Dan, is there something that stood out for you or helped you out with it more so?
Yeah, I was going to say just the training's very actionable. I mean, all the information's there that you need. If you actually then put the work in afterwards, you've got everything you need to set up a fully functioning note business. I haven't really done other training programs, but one of the things that people I know have done and have commented is like, well, I do this training thing, but there's not quite enough to get going. You got to do the next thing. And then the next thing is, whereas like, you know, Gail was saying, we do the fast track, you know, it's kind of open vault. You've got everything there that you need, but it's really a matter of going and doing the work. And it's still a lot of work afterward, but it's very, you know, end to end, everything you need. And then that ongoing support is really helpful as well.
Laura, I think you're the last one.
I haven't done anybody else's note training other than my dad's, and these are the checks, register them. But I have run other businesses. And what, besides the fact that you are so available, because I do text you a lot. I do have a lot of questions.
Gail's the closest one. Gail's the closest one in my office. So you've come in a couple times.
Gail's the closest one to our office.
I know. But one thing about it doesn't matter what business you're in, whether you're a real estate agent or whether you're in fix and flip or whether you're in notes or whether you're in whatever, you're a marketer. That's your business. That's your whole business. You're either marketing to sources to find tapes, you're marketing to investors to find private money, you're marketing to get your name out there so people know who you are. You're in marketing, and that's one of the things that you enjoy about teaching. And I think because you get so excited when you talk about marketing, you get excited about notes too, but you just like get giddy when you start talking about marketing because it's so cool to listen to this. And then, and again, everything is very, very actionable. It's not, you don't give like an umbrella view. You give you do this and you do this and you do this and you do this. And if you'll just get up off your butt and do it, you know, it actually happens. But you're marketing. I don't care what business you're in. You're in marketing. You're in sales. That's what you do.
Hey, Scott, can I add one thing to that as well? The other is you help people who want to be helped. And your training doesn't stop after you take a course. You know, I haven't taken other note investing training, but I've taken other training, and you go to a weekend class or whatever it may be, and everyone's always trying to upsell you on every single other program. With your training, it's, you know, you've got different, you know, training levels and so forth, but you're not, you know, pushy or trying to upsell anything. And if somebody takes one class or this, you know, still answer questions for them. And you really, you know, if people who want to take action, that's where I think it's a difference is, you know, the sports analogy is when somebody joins your team, it's like they're all in the huddle with you and they're all trying to work together. And that's where I see different is you're not only a teacher, but you're looking to build partnerships with people and assist them. And you take pride in helping people grow their businesses. And that's something that you don't see from 99.9% of other trainers. So that's something that is a valuable asset.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that. I wanted to add one more thing as well, too. And that is with Scott's training, with your training, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It constantly amuses me when, you know, you set forth some things that we can follow this path. We can do these kind of things. And you know what? They work. And so it amuses me when people want to try and vary off some of the things that you say, no, do this, and they try and go this other way and it doesn't work. But that's what I like about your training is if I just do what you say, it's going to happen like you said it is. You've been through it before, you know what it is. And so it's not like I have to go out and reinvent the wheel myself. It's just a matter of following your instructions, and what you say works because it does.
I've failed many a time, and I'm glad to save you the heartache of the failures I've gone through. Trust me on that. I'm glad to do that there for you. A little note there, question for you, and we'll ask this one last question here of the day and let you guys get going on your Thursday evening, is that we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about on Saturday about what some of the things you're doing, raising capital, and open up for questions on that. But what's your biggest goal in your note business? What's your big goal in 2019 for your note business? Who wants to start? Or you're like,
what could that be? What could that be? Well, I would say, I've got this thing in the back of my head that talks about autonomy. I'm tired of getting up at 5:30 every morning and getting home at 5:30 every morning. So that's a major driver for me. And if I follow this little plan, and part of the plan is, and I would encourage everybody out there that's listening, is to re-engineer, work the numbers backwards, take a look at what sort of income you need to replace everything you've got, and then figure out how many notes you have to buy in a certain period of time to create the income that covers all that stuff. So that's my goal in 2019. And I know it was in 2018, and I probably was in 2017, but it's something that I'm going to work for. I'm getting to the point, and one of our other compatriots, Gail Villanueva, I texted her just before this started, because there's some frustrations going on with me just trying to do this day job that seems to be growing beyond what it should be. And I know that if I do what Scott instructs and talks to us about, then I'll be able to eclipse that income fairly, very quickly. And it's just a matter of execution. So, my goal, and again, Scott, maybe I'll find something and give it to you. Maybe not, but at any rate, we'll, that's my whole goal, is to try and become autonomous and be able to do this full time. I want to be like Dan Deppen. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll spend some time Sunday morning kind of going through how to work those numbers backwards a little bit for everybody out there.
Yeah, good.
That's one thing. Gail Greenberg, what's your big goal for 2019?
Yeah, well, I've, for all the importance of goal setting and really having a plan, like Cody was just saying, I've never done it, and there's something about me that just resists certain things. And, but I've grown so much as an investor in the time that I've been doing this. Like, I've done deals recently that I would have run screaming away from in the past. And, I started out with that. In a way, it's almost a problem to watch people give you very specific due diligence checklist, because they will tell you don't do anything in a town less than this many people, don't do any vacants, don't do this, don't do that. Well, I just recently, Chris and I have just done amazing things with vacant places that are in rural areas.
You're welcome, Gail, by the way.
It's just,
don't give it away, because one of the biggest things too, you both have evolved. You've got your systems in place.
Exactly.
That's a big difference versus somebody who's brand new in the business.
Exactly. So now, I really feel like I had one way of doing things. I had one way of building wealth. Now I feel like this whole world has opened up for me, and it's really a matter. Now I'm really sitting down to map out the numbers, like what, the kinds of deals that I want to do to build. And we were actually just talking about it, Eddie Speed's thing about partials. Partials have been sort of in the back of my mind, and it's just sort of partials, whatever. But I just realized I have all these notes in my IRAs, and a bunch of them are performing, and I've been waiting for enough payments to come in that I could buy another note. And I thought, what am I doing? I can just cash these things in, sell. I don't want the money yet. I'm not ready to retire, but I could right now, without waiting for all these payments to come in, I could sell a partial. I could go buy more stuff, and I could build it so much faster. And I just feel go. What have I been doing? Now I just feel like I really want to sit down and I want a real recipe for how I'm going to work going forward, and hopefully run to my goals a lot faster.
You had a light go off in your head, basically, which is good. Good.
Exactly.
Dan, big goal for you in 2019, bud?
Yeah, so I've kind of run my numbers, and where if I look at where I sit at the end of 2018, I've basically got an up and running note business that's profitable. And so for me, the goal for 2019 is really to build it into a larger, more scalable business. So I want to average bringing on 5 new notes per month, so basically 60 over the course of 2019. So if I do that, and they're all good deals, at least from going in, they won't all work out well maybe, but that should really put me where I want to be at the end of the year.
Cool. Good stuff. Chris?
Yeah, mine, fine tuning systems. But the two major goals are, as Gail and I got the podcast, growing the podcast, trying to grow an audience. And the other thing is also looking at starting a fund. So looking at getting some accredited investors lined up, because, starting to look at, getting more pools to take down, a larger portfolio of assets, because as the markets, the default rates, are ticking up a little bit, but it's probably going to be a few years before we see those. So looking at, some of these other hedge funds and stuff, starting to talk to them, putting a fund together to try and take down, a larger portfolio.
Good stuff. Cool stuff. And I am in complete support of you guys' podcast. Some people would ask why I would do that, because I believe it helps us build more. There's not enough people out there doing them, and it's such a niche aspect of there. I think it actually helps both shows when there's people that come from different things. So I'm so glad you're gonna have 7 episodes on iTunes. When you hit that next 10, we're gonna talk.
We end up talking about you quite often. It just comes up.
Well, if you ever need advice, I'm glad. If you ever need counsel, I'm glad to give you counsel where I've messed up. So
you guys make sure you let us all know when that becomes available, so we can subscribe to it right away.
Oh yeah.
We're preparing to launch on all of you.
There you go, Laura. By yourself.
We sat down and decided what we wanted to do for next year. We're pretty much on schedule to do 50 by January 1st. And I think what Julian and I decided was we wanted to do between 60 and 70 next year. But this is twice in the last month I've heard Eddie talk about partials. And so the wheels are sort of ticking back here about, yes, we want to do 60 to 70, but how many of those do I want performing? How many of those do I want non-performing? How many of those do I want a partial? So I feel like I have to go back and redefine, but yeah, I want to streamline and I want to build, because my partner is my son. And so my ultimate goal is to have him have a life that, where he can go to Europe and travel and do what he wants to do, what he likes to do. So that's kind of where we sit. And it's working the numbers backwards, but now it's working the numbers backwards and dividing it up as to how many we want. What variety
stuff. Bill?
Shameless plug ties right into what Laura just said. Freedom. I would really like to just continue to buy more notes, and I kind of have basically set a official goal for myself now of transitioning to do note investing full time. I like being a physical therapist, but the job's getting harder and harder and harder for less and less and less return. So, this is just a better life. That's what I'm after to improve for my family. So, certainly buy more notes. And the subset of that, though, is, you need to have a plan to do that. And that includes improving your systems for finding deals, finding inventory, and also finding investors. And I'm referring to my Brave Note video. The full video will be out tomorrow. But really just that. I'm gonna really I plan to transition, and it's my goal to transition to this full time. And one other note for everybody, since we're talking about goals, and I learned this from Aaron Young earlier this year. You actually don't want to reach every single goal that you set. If you did, then goals weren't quite high enough. So that was kind of a big eye opener for me. So I offer that to everybody.
Good stuff. we'll give Aaron, tell Aaron that you said that. I think he's speaking tomorrow, actually. Yeah.
Very good.
He's speaking Saturday, actually. Saturday afternoon, which is awesome. All right. Steph, you got anything you want to share with everybody before we wrap it up for the day?
I did actually. A couple of quick things. One, on the basis of goals and how you guys have grown over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, and are expanding, I look at the things that you say, oh, I want to branch out and maybe add this on. And it doesn't qualify anymore as, oh, look, it's a shiny squirrel syndrome. It's you followed the initial directives of, if you do this, then you can make this happen. You did those things. And so now you're at a point where you have a really good foundation of knowledge and you can branch out more comfortably. You know, you can branch out with a little bit more self-assurance is actually a better word that I'm looking for. And then also too, we have overall between the WCN crew and then the folks who have gone through the mastermind and the workshops and stuff, we do have a great community. I mean, I've been around this for a long time and I've seen a lot of people come in. I've seen a lot of people stick around. And I have seen some people go.
Steph is one of the original 8 or one of the original 10 masterminders. So.
I was the one he picked up the phone and called and said, hey, so I've got this really cool idea. What do you think? I said, what's your idea? Well, you know, I have the classes. What if we pared that down? What if we did like an intensive? And the word was different back then, but let's do a mastermind.
Let's put 12 strangers together in a house for 8 days.
I wasn't so cool about the everybody in a house because, you know, some of us don't share well, but it's an interesting concept, but it was really a lot of fun. And, but it's grown from that. So from 12 people to, you know, everybody enjoyed it. So we did one in December of that year, and then it went to 3 times a year. And so, I mean, we continually try to tweak that because we do have new people that come in that, you know, they do need some of the foundation stuff. We try to keep some of those aspects the same, but we do try to change things up and bring new people in and cover things as the market changes and as our goals change. And not even just our goals, but how we change as people. Because the cool thing about all of you guys is as you've done this, Gail said earlier that she thinks it's just a girl thing. It's not just a girl thing. I've seen more grown men than I've seen women in this industry sit back and go, I can't do that. I can't do that because I'm self-conscious and it's just beating me to death. But they've gotten over it or they've dropped out. And one thing about our community is that people really do stick up for each other and they do help each other. And they're supportive of, you know, you got a crazy idea? Well, if you think you can pull it off, here's a way that you might be able to do it. Or here's somebody else in a parallel industry that can help you get to where you want to be if we don't know that answer. And we don't expect to know every answer. To that end, a funny aspect, you know, listening to everybody talk about going through fast track and stuff like that, and the actionable items, Scott's a strange bird in that he says, and I say this to everybody, he always talks about how he's very direct, but he's one of those people, and he's done it to me. He's one of those people that comes in and says, you know, if you want to do this, then you got to get off your butt and do it. And he doesn't let you keep living your own BS and wallowing in it or sitting in that wall of, ooh, I don't want to do a podcast episode tonight because it's Sunday, but really I can't think of something I want to say, you know? And that can apply to many things. I don't want to reach out and call banks, or I don't want to send that marketing email or whatever, but he's very direct and will inspire you and push you to do something, or like Chris says, you just don't. So I think that's it's a cool community and a cool group that we've built. And I love seeing you guys evolve and grow and do other things. And I love the fact that, you know, we can all exist and thrive and grow together, and it's not a competition. So I just think that's really cool. I'm very proud of you guys. I'm happy you're part of the group. So that's my take on it.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
So, guys and gals, thank you so much for being on here tonight. We got some good stuff on Saturday with you guys as well. Once again, if you guys did not know this, big love, big kudos to all of you. We're so proud of what you guys accomplished and look forward to what you guys accomplish this next year. And we'll talk about some more stuff on Saturday. And
All right.
Gail, Casey wants to know if you ever spoil your dogs.
Dogs. This is my child.
Fur babies right there. So
Amen, sister.
good stuff out there. Appreciate it all, Jim, everybody. Jack DeWeese, big goal, get off your butt and go do it in 2019. So just start taking action. quit overthinking it, and just like all of these people here, and there's a lot more out there, they're just doing amazing things. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Don't be fearful of the things that don't really exist. Go out and tackle it, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody. So once again, guys, thank you so much for spending time on your Thursday evening, and we'll see you Saturday afternoon, all right?
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for day one of the Note Camp 6. Awesome stuff today. Thank you. Hang on here. Let me pull my video up there. Yeah. Note Camp 1, day 6. I'm sorry, day 6 of Note Camp 6, day 1. I'm a little tired here.
Where am I?
Exactly. So,
day one, you better get some sleep, Scott.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. We have a lot of stuff to go through tomorrow. So, but anyway, thank you for everybody that was here, whoever attended, whoever watched on Facebook Live. You can do me a huge favor. Share it. If you love this video, share it. Love the panel, share it. Share it to your Facebook. We'd appreciate that. For those that are watching the replays, hey, any one of these individuals in here is always glad for you to reach out and pick their brain. I know they all here to help you out because we've all gone through different things and have different backgrounds to help you succeed. So on that, we'll see you guys tomorrow on day 2. We kick off at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time at 7 o'clock on the Pacific Coast or 10 a.m. on the East Coast where Chris is at. So we'll see you guys all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Good night.